Hey everyone, it's Mike, your safety guy with NextTech, and this is the Service Call Podcast. This is a show where we talk about the people who actually keep the lights on, the air running, and the job moving forward. But the show goes beyond our industry to explore resilience, leadership, and lessons from people who answer the call to serve. We'll feature techs, leaders, and a few wild cards, and real stories from the field, the shop, and everywhere in between. No corporate scripts, no sales pitch, just real conversations with people who know what it means to show up and get it done. Let's roll. Hey guys, welcome back. We have a new one for you today. This is the NextTech podcast powered by NextTech. If you'd like more information, you can check us out on the internet at nextechna.com. That's NextTech, NextechNA.com. That will give you things like careers and opportunities, or you could be a customer that's wanting a little bit more information about NextTech. Then you're going to want to go to nextechna.com. There's a bunch of information there and a bunch of links. And again, and if maybe you're a service tech, an apprentice, an electrician, or refrigeration technician, that's a great way to start by going to nextechna.com. There's a little career button, tap on that, and then it'll take you right to where you need to go. Now, please be patient. We have a lot of applicants that come through the door. You may not get an answer right away, but we'll get back to you. So please be patient. And again, if you want to know more about us, go to nextechna.com. Today we have an amazing guest, and I say that all the time because every guest is amazing. But Franklin's got a great story. It may be a little confusing on the dates, but trust me, it all works out in the end. Welcome, Franklin. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well.
So you got a cool story because you're in HVAC. You've been in HVAC since around 2007, but you started an HVAC school, and then instead of going to school, or not into school, but instead of going into HVAC, you became a police officer with the NYPD.
Yes.
Tell us about you. Tell us about this story. Don't leave anything out. We want to hear everything.
Okay. So I used to work before I became NYPD. I used to work at a mortgage company. One of my friends who worked in the office across from us was like, take the NYPD test. At that time, I was going to school for HVAC. So I took the test. I graduated HVAC school. So I didn't think anything of it. And then I got called by NYPD. I was like, okay, do I go NYPD or do I go HVAC? So I decided to go NYPD, but my friend who encouraged me to take the test, she didn't get in, but I got it.
Wait, there's got to be more to this. So you're working for a mortgage company, you go to HVAC school, you become a police officer in NYPD. What was the reasoning that you did school first and then decided? I get that you probably had your application into NYPD maybe before you did HVAC school and then they finally called, or did you apply for NYPD after going to HVAC school thinking you're never going to make it?
I applied thinking I'm never going to make it, but in New York City, it's one of those things, okay, apply for NYPD or apply for city tests. That's where the job stability is. The places that have the best life, health insurance and pay and everything else. But I didn't think anything of it. And then what NYPD was offering as starting compared to what HVAC was starting, even with job placement assistance had a better option at that time. During the whole time while I was at NYPD and even before that, I was always a mechanically person. So I helped people, whether it was replacing boilers, hot water heaters, fixing cars, all those things.
Did you live in the city or did you live in the suburbs and you had to take the train or come across the bridge?
I lived in the city, not in Manhattan. I lived in Queens.
Queens. I just met somebody last weekend that was from Queens.
Oh, wow.
You're living in the city. You're an officer. How long were you a police officer?
I was a police officer 15 years on paper. I left in about 12 years. I still had like 3 years on the books before I actually was considered retired.
Well, first off, myself, I want to thank you for your service. NextTech also wants to thank you for your service. Both of us, NextTech and myself, were big LEO fans, like we talked a little bit about it in a pre-interview. But we want to thank you for your service because it's not an easy job. You got into you're working at NYPD, but you never got your mind out of HVAC. What made you, and it may be personal and you can't answer, what made you leave NYPD and then go back into HVAC? Or were you just like, look, I'm done. I lived an amazing life. I've got 15-year retirement. I want to go back to working with my hands.
I left, for a couple of reasons. After 9/11, it was tough dealing with that. My
Oh,
precinct was
really?
literally about 10 to 15 blocks from the towers. So we was there
Oh,
from
you were there.
yes, yes. So I was on the site for probably about a good 2, 3 years on the World Trade Center site.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I'm really sorry that you had to go through that.
thank you. Yeah, I lost one of my sergeants in the building.
Did you lose him?
Yes, yes.
Oh, so sorry. Gonna take me right out. Gonna take me right out. So you go into HVAC, you leave the force, and you realize that HVAC is still in your blood. Talk about
Mhm.
that because you had to have forgotten a little bit, or did you pick right up and was like, "I'm made for this"?
No, it took a little while. So basically, when I left NYPD, my sister she kind of encouraged me. Okay, it's time for you to get out that city. A couple of years prior, before I left NYPD, my other sister she passed away in her sleep, and they had to rule it natural causes. She was only 35, and they couldn't figure out why she passed. So my other sister who lives in Virginia, she was like, "It's time for you to get out the city, give yourself a change." And at that time, I was going through a separation with my first wife. So I was like, you know what? This is a better time than ever to make a change. So I moved down to Virginia. Coming to into Virginia, it was more of a residential HVAC and more HVAC than in New York City. New York City, you have a lot of commercial, but not residential or anything like that. Everything's big buildings and things like that. Homes don't necessarily have central air conditioning in New York. You have a lot of boilers and stuff like that.
You moved to Virginia.
Yes.
You're working there. Did you go back to school, or did you
No, I
walk
didn't.
in the door to an employer and just be like, "Hey, I went to school. I took a 15-year hiatus. I'm still here."
Yes, yes. I did a lot of studying in that time. I've always been a big book reader and studying and videos. I've always tried to keep up on what was going on as far as refrigerants and what's required as far as tools and everything else.
So you're when you started then in the trade, yeah, I think that was around 2007?
Yes.
So you've
I
had
worked
some
for a
time now.
Yeah. So I worked for a company in Virginia. I started working for a company called, I'm not sure if I can say it, Crop Metcalf. So they're a big company, residential in Virginia. They do some commercial, but they're not heavily into commercial.
So
And I
how was
worked.
that like? How was it like then? The company hires you, your first company, Metcalf, solid company, been around for years.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, how was it? How was it of a change mentally to get yourself from a high stress, because NYPD is very stressful, I'm assuming,
Yes.
to, "Oh my gosh, I'm on a service van, I'm running calls, I've got some freedom." What was that like?
It's actually not that big of a change, really. There is some type of change that, oh, you have to get to this, it's an emergency, but it all comes back down to helping people out. Whether you're doing HVAC or you're doing police work, it's all about helping somebody that's in some type of need.
But you've got that customer service mindset about helping people, so then HVAC then from really being in a person's home is not a big deal. So now you've been in the trade, 2007, coming up on 20 years for you.
Yes.
And that's a lot of time to work for you. Did you stay at Metcalf for a long time, or did you move around? I moved around a lot, so
Yeah, I moved around a little bit before I opened my own business. And I also went into Crop Metcalf with the mindset of wanting to open my own business. But I had to be able to get my journeyman and master's license. Even though I have associate's degree in HVAC, I still needed to work for a company for 2 years to be able to make that step.
then when did you open your own business?
In 2000, end of 2016.
How did that go for you? Because I've spoken earlier about my own personal that I had a small residential business while I was working for a hospital in California. I found out I wasn't an entrepreneur. I didn't have that be an owner spirit. I always found out that I did better working for amazing people. How was it for you?
It took a while. I love the freedom. Love the flexibility. As far as the logistics, I can't stand.
You gotta expand on that one.
Basically, the financing, try and get money for the business, all the paperwork that's required. People don't realize how stressful it is trying to keep everything in line when you're
Did you have em
running a business.
did you have employees or was it you?
Yeah, it was me and 2 other, basically tech/helpers. But
So now you're
I didn't
respons
have a operations manager, which my wife always gets on me about. You should have operations manager that, made things a little bit smoother and stuff like that.
but you had responsibilities then. You had responsibilities as an owner to not only take care of customers, but you had to make payroll to take care of
Yes.
your 2 other employees.
Yep.
Did you operate the business for a long time before you said, "I'm out, this isn't for me"?
I operated up until the end of last year. Well, the end of, moved to Florida in June. So, right before I moved to Florida is when I closed the business, we downsized our house, and we relocated to Florida.
So you flew in June 2025,
5, yeah.
right, last year?
Yes. Yep.
You did pretty good. You
Yeah.
operated a business for quite a while. Were you financially, always taken care of, always in the plus?
Yeah, it was ups and downs, especially doing a lot of residential. You have major shoulder season, especially in the Virginia area. And I realized there's so many people that's willing to deal without heat opposed to air conditioning.
Here in the West, we go without heat, because air conditioning is everything here,
Yeah,
because of our heat. Right now we're in a cool spell. It's 80 degrees. So it's nice and cool here. Arizonans were weird. But
yeah.
it's nice here. It's beautiful weather. If you before we move into your commercial career, do you have any advice? Like if somebody's watching this, maybe a young person is looking at watching your video and you're like, okay, he ran a business for quite a while. He did it on his own. Do you have any advice for them? Anything to tell them to say, about starting a business and running a business?
Yes, yes. One of the main thing is make sure you have somebody that to help with your paperwork. Make sure you have financing and loans available to start up the business, which is major, and stay on top of your your taxes. Taxes are very hard hitting for a lot of small businesses.
Okay, there you heard it right there. You heard it from a guy who's had a small business and ran it successfully. That's some great advice. You moved to Florida, and then did you come to work for Next Tech after you moved to Florida, or did you work for somebody else?
No, no, I came to Next Tech. I took about a month and a half off when I moved here. And then I started with Next Tech at the end of July.
End of July 2025.
Yes.
Gotcha. So you're coming up on a year with Next Tech.
Yes. Yes, I am.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Did How do you like doing commercial now? Now, how do you well, I must back up. Was it hard going from a personal business one-on-one, 3 techs to a nationwide company that has 2,800, 22 to 2,800 techs nationwide? Was it hard going from a small shop to a big shop?
It took a little adjustment. Not too much, but it's actually going from residential to commercial. My wife always tells me you're cleaner now when working commercial than residential. I used to come home filthy working residential because you have a lot of attics and crawl spaces and things of that nature.
Right. Makes sense. So now you're in commercial work. How do you like commercial now that you're doing bigger commercial and mostly rooftop work? There's some ground work, but mostly rooftop work. Are you having a good time with it?
Yes, I am. That and, the refrigeration aspect.
So you weren't doing refrigeration before, correct? You learned it
No,
here?
no, no. I learned a lot of it here, but actually when I went to school, it was heavily on the refrigeration side.
So then I'm gonna ask you, what do you prefer? HVAC, refrigeration?
HVAC.
Okay, okay. So we now know if you're listening and you're from Florida, he doesn't like refrigeration. That means that they're gonna turn around and give you all refrigeration calls.
I think I've gotten a lot better at it. I like it, but I still prefer the HVAC. There's a lot bigger equipment to deal with.
So involving HVAC in the HVAC industry, you know, there's multiple aspects you can do. You can mostly package units, lots of split systems, chillers, things like that that are all within HVAC. What do you prefer to do? Do you prefer like you start your day and say, "Man, I hope it's nothing but service calls today," or do you say, "Gosh, I'd love to do an install because I like doing installs." Like, what do you prefer and why?
I like it split up a little bit, but I do like the service work, especially on RTUs and stuff like that. I like doing those, even if they're repairs and stuff like that. Sometimes the installs take a little bit more time, which is not so bad. I do not like duct work.
Yeah, I don't either. I hate ductwork. Hate it. And I
Exactly.
started off in a sheet metal shop. God, I hate
Yeah,
doing it. Did you
yeah,
probably
duct
had
work.
to do sheet metal at Metcalf, doing residential, plenums, transitions, stuff like that?
Yes, yes, yeah. I can do duct work. I
You
just don't
can.
like doing duct work.
And if you're his boss listening, he doesn't like refrigeration, doesn't like ductwork. So that means they're gonna give you all refrigeration calls and ductwork. That's not true. Not true at all.
I am getting to like refrigeration a little bit better than I did when I first started.
When you're doing HVAC, I always ask all the service techs that I interview about tools. What are your favorite tools? What tools do you like? Manufacturers, you can give manufacturers, it's not a big deal.
Okay.
But what tool bags do you like to use? Tell us about your tool bag, your tool setup. What do you like?
Oh, I'm a big tool person. For most part, most of my tools are Milwaukee because I like having one flat platform where I can switch my batteries back and forth. For most part, I'm on the M12 platform. I do have a couple of M18 items that I use. As far as bags go, I like the Vito bags, but I've come to love this thing called Holstery. It's kind of like a tool belt, but it is very comfortable, and it's especially going up and down ladders. It's so much easier than having to lug a bag over my shoulder.
So I would assume all your hand tools as well is gonna be Milwaukee
Not all, most. I do a lot of Malco tools and some Klein. As far as
meters.
my meters is I have two different. Oh, as far as meters and gauges, Field Piece all the way. But
Good brand on
I
field
also
piece.
have a Fluke meter, which I also use. So I have a Fluke as well as a Field Piece multimeter.
Do you have, multiple bag setups, like one for service, one for installs, or you just put everything together?
I literally have pack out units that I keep in the back of the van. I have drawer pack outs where I have everything organized inside my pack outs. And I also use what I realize, especially on refrigeration, which has helped me so much. I think it's called a site runner cart.
I was gonna ask you about the pack outs, if you had the pack outs with the wheels on them.
Yeah, I have those, but most of the time those stay. But the site runner, can't remember who makes it, but I put all my stuff on there. I just wheel it inside the store, and it holds everything. Even though I did some modifications where where I have some of my pack outs mounted to the side of the site runner.
Gotcha. So then, you're running service calls, you like to do mostly calls, you've got a great supply of, Milwaukee tools, Fluke voltmeters, field piece, great field piece. Is that what you use? Are you a digis person, digital? Or
Yes,
do you still hold some old, analogs? Do you have any analogs in your van?
not anymore.
So you
I have
got rid of everything is digital and the analogs are gone.
Yeah, so
How about probes?
I have the wireless field piece probes as well as I believe I forgot which S man it is, like 460 or something like that.
You're the first one that I've met that has completely moved away from compound and analog.
Yeah, but yeah, I believe in spending money on quality tools. I like to be able to know I'm gonna pick up something and it's gonna work.
Fair enough. You're running service calls now. You're doing journeyman work. How do you feel about the new refrigerants, the 454Bs, and are you doing, and probably you're doing a little bit of R290. How you feel about the new refrigerants on the market?
It doesn't bother me. What bothered me was the way it rolled out and how hard it was to get the refrigerant when they first came out. Like especially
Expand on that.
the R 454. It was like, for lack of a better term, hell to get it when everything was being switched over in beginning of last January. I believe that's when it was switched over, somewhere around
Right.
there.
For me, it was the whole valve thing. It's like, the tanks are coming out, they're gonna need those valves, and then they hold us hostage because, "Oh, we can't get the valves." Well, you knew this was coming, so why didn't you
Exactly.
have the valve? It was frustrating to see an industry hold a service tech and actually hold a customer hostage because we're having short of valves.
Mhm. Yeah.
Make no sense.
Yeah, and at that time, as being a small business, a lot of these major companies held you hostage, or they wouldn't sell you the refrigerant because they had stockpiles set aside for their large dealers.
How did you compensate for that?
Well, I've got at that time we were doing Lennox, and my rep was able to get us from one of his other dealers, which helped out. But some of the other manufacturers was like, no, if you're not doing $1 million+ we have it, but we're not going to sell it to you. And the same thing kind of happened during COVID as far as equipment goes, which was kind of tough.
Yeah, we have these obstacles that you and I have to overcome. We have refrigerants that are not available, equipment that's not available. You're trying to make your profitability, you're trying to pay for your employees and things like that. And then you're having to deal with refrigerant shortages. Now that the refrigerant shortages are somewhat taken care of, what are you seeing out there as far as, so you've been in the trade a while, about the quality of equipment? I see problems with equipment manufacturers because copper tubing is very thin, parts are failing, there's a high warranty. What are your feelings? What are you
My
seeing?
feelings, I'm seeing some of those same things. I'm also seeing as far as the labor that's putting these units together in the factories have a lot of issues. I've come across multiple units, not so much as I've been here, but when I was on the residential side, I seen multiple units where capacitors are wired wrong, where blower wheels, the nut is not tightened on them. So it's like there's no standard of quality anymore on a lot of these units.
Yeah, they will say, "Well, that's part of the commissioning process," and I'm like in my head going, "You need to build a solid unit first. I shouldn't have to, in some ways, rewire your unit or verify lugs are tightened or wire nuts are tightened, or it's not my job in the commissioning process."
Exactly.
You've been working with apprentices for a while, and you're seeing, especially with a nearly 20 years in the trade, we still see a shortage of technicians. What do you think we can do besides pay? Because everybody says it's a pay issue. What do you think we can do to attract new employees to the trade?
That's a tough one because I only say that because a lot of new people that think about going into trades or would like to come in trade, they don't like the elements. They don't want to work in the elements. They don't want to deal with the hot. They don't want to deal with the cold. And I'm not sure how can we get over that obstacle.
I don't think we can. I don't think we can get over an obstacle unless you work in a factory where it's, maybe conditioned all the time. But I
Mhm.
mean, we make our money with extreme cold and we make our money with extreme hot. So, that's when service techs are needed the most.
Yeah.
Do you still think it's a pay issue? That maybe that a lot of people are not getting into trades because of pay?
I think that has something to do with it, but I also think it's the heat and the cold issue and the getting dirty or scared to get cut or don't want to go up a ladder. It's all that combined.
I mean, the money, I mean, everybody talked about the money part, and we keep paying more, and you would think at some point people would say, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna leave everything I'm doing and doing HVAC because it pays so well," and it doesn't happen. Still, I think you're right. I think you're onto something about the elements, that it is hot and it's cold and it's dirty and it's, whatever, I'm working by myself. I don't like to work by myself, whatever it is. Go
When I
ahead.
was growing up, it didn't matter about getting dirty. You would want to get dirty. You didn't mind getting your hands and your feet dirty and doing those things. And in the HVAC, we are the one trade that has the most expensive tools, and we essentially got to know everybody else's job. We got to know the plumber's job. We got to know the electrician's job. But sometimes we are considered on the bottom of the scale of the trades as far as
I look at the
compensation and things of that nature.
I look at the trades as a one group. HVAC can't do what it does unless the lineman brings the power, and then we can't heat the system unless the gas is brought to
Mhm.
to the unit. And we can't bring the power into it, from the power plant into the house unless I had, electrician. So I always look at everybody as equal, as doing their job equally.
Yeah.
So do you have any tech tips? Like, do you have something that you, that you're like all the time when you work with apprentices? Like for me, it's checking primary power on a transformer and make sure that the transformer is always tapped to the right voltage, not 230, 240, but you know what I mean? I always tell apprentices to do that. Well, do you have any tech tips that you always teach or use?
Yeah, so always verify power is off before you touch anything. That's one of the main one. And also the other tech tip I tell apprentices or helpers, if you're hooking up gauges or taking off your gauges, and if it starts blowing out, just step back. Just don't try to stop it or anything like that. I think safety is a major thing, especially as far as refrigerants go. People don't realize how much cold can burn.
Is being a service tech what you're wanting to do for the rest of your career? Or do you have your eyes set on something, a position or developing or something, doing something different? Like, what are you looking forward to in your time as you work through the trade?
Um, as of right now, I like being a service tech. I like driving around to different locations. I like meeting different people. I've always been somebody who enjoys not necessarily long, lengthy conversations, but I like looks on people's faces when I get something running or something that they've been out for a while. But as far as where I want to go, I'm still kind of undecided on that.
We're talking to Franklin Ford. Franklin's been with Nextech now almost a year, but he's got a great background in law enforcement. Again, we want to thank him for his service at NYPD, and he's been in the trade for quite a while, since 2007. So a couple more years, actually one more year, he'll almost one more year, he'll have 20 years in the trade. I know, and it goes by fast. I've got over 40 years in HVAC.
Oh, okay.
It's all I've ever done since high school, right into air conditioning. Again, we want to thank Franklin Ford. He is with Nextech. He's been with us almost a year. And today's podcast is brought to you by Nextech. You can find more information about us at nextechna.com. That's nextechna.com. Also, be sure to go back into YouTube. You can see all sorts of podcasts. We have some video and audio podcasts, both of them. You can also find just a few podcasts on iTunes and Spotify. So if you're wanting to drive and listen, or maybe you're a service tech who is listening like on a magnetic speaker and you got your phone up on the speaker up on a unit, you can catch some of our podcasts there as well. I appreciate you guys a bunch. I really do. And if you have a cool HVAC story, I'd love to hear from you. Let drop a comment somewhere in the YouTube page, and we'll work it out. We'll connect with each other, and we'll hear your HVAC story. I appreciate you guys a bunch. Work safe, be good humans, and I'll see you next time.